few weeks ago, I posted a video on the top 5 best premium squads for Enlisted. Today's video will be quite different, and to be exact, I'll be doing the opposite. In this video, I'll be doing the exact opposite in the sense that I'll be covering some of the worst squads in Enlisted. Unlike my top 5 best premium squads video, this video is going to be quite simple. We're just going to be looking at the top 5 worst premium squads in Enlisted. And that said, without further ado, let's get started with this video. And this is going to be a brief introduction, because this is also going to be hopefully a brief video on the top 5 worst premium squads. So let's get started. But before we do, don't forget to like, subscribe, and join the Discord, because this video has been only made possible through the Discord of our community, so please join that. And that said, let's officially get started. In 5th place, we have the M1340. This Italian tank is basically the predecessor to the M14 tank that is unlocked after the AB41. As you can find in some premium squads on the list, they are basically copies of the ones in game, with little or no changes. In this case, the M1340 functions like the M1441. For both tanks, you have a better armament and better armor compared to the A13 tank and the Daimler armor cars. That said, the armor isn't as impressive as a good enemy player, where they know where to hit you. So basically, against a pro player, you're pretty much in a bad spot. Which, by the way, if you don't know where to hit this thing, it has to be hit on the cheek, which takes out the gunner, and then you keep hitting that place until the enemy entire crew dies. Overall, the M1340 isn't a bad vehicle for its tier. What is bad is the fact that it doesn't solve the issue that all Axis tanks overall suffer, mainly due to the machine gun and that said tank. Not to mention, the M1441 can be unlocked extremely early into a campaign, meaning that besides getting a premium squad that gives you extra XP, you're not going to be doing much except getting a very good looking camo on the M1340, which, by the way, it's a pretty good looking camo. This isn't even mentioning the fact that once you unlock a better tank, which is mostly the Scimavente or the Panzer III, you're probably going to get that better than the M1340. That said, this is the M1340 for you, and let's move on to the 4th place. In 4th place, we have the A13. Basically, what I said about the M1340 can apply to the A13, however, it's worse. Unlike the M1340, the A13 has slightly less armor, and for a trade-off of speed. The non-premium A13 can be also obtained at the beginning of the campaign, so basically the A13 isn't really special. Once again, this is just premium squad for the A13, which is already in game at the beginning of the battle, so you don't even need to fight a battle to get the regular A13. So once again, why are you getting this premium squad? Once again, like all squads that come really early, this squad is basically useless after you get a better vehicle. As a matter of fact, it is basically useless after you unlock any other tank or plane after the Daimler. Honestly, there's nothing much to say about the A13. Sure, it can get the job done to mostly lightly armored targets, but it's a copy of paste of non-premium tank that can be eventually thrown out. What's worse compared to the M1340 is that the A13 has slightly less armor, albeit a better machine gun, which is, depending on your position, better or worse. However, most importantly, the A13 seriously has nothing unique. It's basically the most boring tank. At least the M1340 has a good camo. But that said, this is the A13 for you, a premium vehicle that is not really useful, not really special, not really anything. But that said, let's move on to 3rd place. The 3rd worst premium squad on this list is the BF-109G10. Unlike the 2 previously mentioned premium squads, the BF-109G10 is significantly unique. Like a regular BF-109, the G10 is armed with a machine gun and 20mm cannons. However, unlike the BF-109, the G10 variant has 30mm cannons. Yes, you heard me correct. The 30mm cannons are absolutely devastating. That is, against planes. And for the reason of this video, the 30mm cannons are only against planes. This is probably why the BF-109G10 is on this list. The BF-109G10 also trades the bombs for the 30mm cannons, once again another reason why this plane is on this list. For those who can't figure out by now the issue, let me explain. This plane is extremely good against taking out planes, however, I cannot take out any land targets, unless you are extremely lucky enemy American soldier, and I mean American in the sense that this is in Normandy. That said, you are playing in Normandy, which means there are going to be a lot of planes in the air, so you are actually going to be shooting down a lot of planes. To recap, this BF-109G10 is basically a BF-109 that trades its bombs for 30mm cannons. It excels at enemy air targets, mostly shredding them in one burst, if you know where to shoot of course, but it's almost useless against ground targets. That says, this is the BF-109G10, and let's move on to 2nd place. In second place of the worst premium squads, we have the Hurricane. Now, this Hurricane is actually quite different from a regular Hurricane in the sense that instead of just 20mm Vickers machine guns, this has 40mm cannons. Yes, you heard correct. 40mm cannons. Like the BF-109G10, this thing can shred through enemies, and actually, in my opinion, more so considering that the fact that the BF-109G10 has 30mm and this thing has 40mm cannons. Sadly, this is where it all goes downhill. Like the BF-109G10, this thing is in Tunisia, meaning there are not a lot of planes around as compared to Normandy, so in terms of plane combat, the BF-109G10 is gonna get more planes to deal with. And like the BF-109G10, the Hurricane has decent anti-aircraft guns, but against ground targets, it suffers. And when I mean suffers, it suffers a lot. Thankfully, you can take out some Italian AB-41s, which are just going around. I honestly don't know if you can, but I haven't tried, but considering the fact that 40mm cannons on the thing, you should be able to take some AB-41s out, in theory, especially if you know where you're shooting. That requires a lot of skill. In all, albeit the Hurricane is better than the BF-109G10 in some categories, it suffers due to 1, being in Tunisia, which means there are not a lot of planes, and 2, the 40mm cannons once again can't really take out ground targets with ease. Hence, that is why the Hurricane is in second place. The number 1 worst premium squad in Enlisted is probably the BF-109G14. The reason why the BF-109G14 is the worst premium squad is because of the BF-109G14 is in Berlin. It has the exact same machine guns, the 20mm cannons, and the exact same 30mm cannons that is found on the BF-109G10. Once again, this premium squad is a letdown like the BF-109G10, more so because this one is in Berlin. A campaign with basically no planes. If you haven't realized by now, the 30mm cannons can't even penetrate a Stuart, and since everyone is deploying a tank in Berlin, you're not going to be penetrating a T-34, not even to mention the IS-2. Or IS-1. Needless to say, I don't think I really have to explain why the BF-109G14 is a letdown. It's basically a plane hunter in a campaign with no planes, and a plane with 30mm cannons that cannot take out a tank. That said, this is the BF-109G14, the worst premium squad in the game. That said, I believe we are at the end of this video. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and join the Discord, and I'll see you in the next video. Now before you leave, I would like to thank you very much for watching this video. I would be honored if you could like and subscribe to the channel. Remember, more videos are coming out, so it is a good idea to click on that notification button. Anyways, have a great day, and I'll see you in the next one.